Okay. So let's just start it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You just start it?
Yeah.
That's
All
not
right.
how you start things.
Yeah, so this is the first podcast in...
Have you thought of a title for this?
No.
Doesn't need one.
Something about cynicism in playing games, probably. But
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure on it.
I
have
mean,
any
I haven't
ideas?
thought about it either.
Yeah. Who cares about the name? We'll come up with something after this is all done and recorded.
Do it all in post.
Yeah. But this is something that will be, I don't know, done hopefully every week over this summer at least. Because, I don't know, I feel like every single one of our friends wants to be on it.
I feel
once.
like at some point that'll happen, yeah.
Yeah. And then, they all want to be on it, and we can just have them all be on it separately, or like two of them on at the same time. Like, there's a ton of things you can do.
That might be too much for this little microphone to handle.
Probably. But, the table environment, it works. Someone could just sit right here. It's fine.
Don't hit the table. You ruined the microphone.
Yeah. I guess you don't really need to say, like, what our names are. Whatever. I'm Paddy, but, like, I'm never going to introduce myself ever again. And then the other person is Jeffrey.
No, I'm not.
All right. That's an introduction.
It'll never happen again. Be thankful for it.
I guess it's good to start off with, like, why we even want to do this.
Because I'm a game design major and talking about games is fun and interesting.
Yeah, so that's why I reached out to Jeffrey about this. And I guess I think it's a good idea because, I don't know, I think people don't talk about games the right way sometimes.
I feel like you just do this because you don't like The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about how much you don't like The Witcher 3
today. No Witcher 3 today.
That'll happen in a later rendition.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think people, they don't talk about games the right way a lot of times. You get that on Reddit. You get
people, like, they talk about games a lot.
They talk about games, but, like, even the hardcore crowd, they talk about, like, they try and make it, like, really objective. They'll be like, oh, it has this and this and this, so therefore I like it. Rather, they don't, like, play it. And
then, it's like a checklist mentality instead of just kind of immersion.
It's a really big problem in role-playing games.
Yes.
That's where I think it's, like, the biggest problem. Because, I'm just going to say it, I think everyone has, like, a totally horrible idea of what a role-playing game is supposed to do. Like, everyone thinks, like, oh, it's supposed to have a complex gameplay system, but they don't recognize, like, it's not bad if it does, but they don't recognize the point of it having a complex game system behind it, right? It's like, the point is for, like, immersion. That's what I think. But, like, a lot of people don't realize that. They think it's supposed to be, like, I don't know, similar to, like, picking up a fighting game. Like, you get better at it or something. But you don't really get better at a role-playing game.
Role-playing, like, the whole concept behind role-playing games in the title, you take control over a role in the world, and you play through that role in that world that you're supposed to be immersed into.
Yeah.
And you focus on other parts of that game, which is, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, if one part of a game is done well, you can focus on that and say, like, the actual immersion part of it isn't as good. Well, then it fails as a role-playing game, and it's more just focused around its combat system or whatever.
Right. I mean, that's what I feel like people just kind of screw up that idea. It's like complex gameplay systems are a means to an end. The point, you said it's just like it's supposed to immerse you in whatever, a character story or a world or whatever through certain things. And a lot of times other games repeat the same way other games do it.
I feel like we're already getting on track to talk about The Witcher. And
The Witcher comes up in this, but it's not the same thing. Like, you can talk about The Witcher like this, but it's more like, I more like to talk about this for the people that slander Skyrim. Because they talk about how weak they think its combat system is, right? And how, like, kind of floaty it feels and detached. But, like, I don't know, I feel like that isn't the mean to immersion. Like, the game immerses you in, like, fantastic other world-building ways.
Yeah, like the actual environment, like the environments and the actual quest lines that exist within the world and the story that it tells, along with all the other random crap just strewn about the world that makes the world actually feel alive. Like, even NPCs just kind of going through their daily cycle, even if it is just set on a script, it still makes the world feel alive. And when you enter like a town for the first time and you see things happening, it's like, oh, this world is living around me and I'm merely a part in that world and playing a role in that world.
It works extremely well. Like you said, towns. I don't know, that's something I've been thinking about lately with Skyrim is how like towns first, because some scripts run when you first enter a town. A lot of times they're kind of repetitive, like in Winterhold and in Whiterun, you always come into some sort of controversy is happening in front of you. In Whiterun, it's the Redguard people looking for the Redguard woman, and then in Whiterun, and then in Winterhold, it's the Dark Elf being like getting racisted.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And there's also the one, I think it's in Markarth.
Yeah,
it's whatever one's all the way to the left on the map. You enter there, and there's always
an assassination.
Yeah, there's someone just being
and that
murdered
opens
in front of
up
you.
the.
I can't remember what the name of the people are.
There's something conspiracy. The
Forsworn.
Forsworn. Yeah, great quest line. But if anything, that's something to criticize, right? Is like you always go into a town, and it always opens up with some quest line. You go into,
Yeah,
but I think it depends. I think what's in the bottom right? Is that Riften?
Yeah, that's Riften.
That one has one of my favorite ones because you go in it. One. Yeah, but that you talk to that guy. Remember that? And he like sets up everything for you, and it's like getting the narration to like the beginning of a crime movie or something.
Yeah, like the beginning. The beginning of Riften is significantly different than what happens with the Red Guards and what happens with the Forsworn, because those events just kind of play out in front of you.
Yeah.
Whereas the Thieves Guild thing,
you're a vital part, and it's a pre-existing structure, and you kind of join it.
It doesn't necessarily even start until you actually talk to him. Like the things with the Forsworn, you walk in and it just happens in front of you.
Yeah.
With the Thieves Guild, you actually have to actively seek it out, even though it's already being played in front of you, so it doesn't feel like you're seeking it out.
And that takes advantage of the fact that like you already know the Thieves Guild is in this game because you played Oblivion and you played. Yeah, they had the Thieves Guild in that. So that I always felt Skyrim did a really good job of catering to the fact that people coming from Oblivion know about certain things that are also going to be in this. So they change them up in a cool way, kind of.
Yeah,
but but I'm not in love with how you have to join the Dark Brotherhood. You know what I mean?
You don't necessarily have to. It's just
no, I mean the way in which you join it.
Oh, okay.
I think in Oblivion it's so much cooler. You just murder someone, and then Lucian seeks you out, and he's like, "Dude, join up." So I like that. What do you think about having to go to that kid's house? And
honestly, the fact that it plays out as like, oh, this is just a rumor you're here, and it's just like if you come from playing
that is cool.
If you come from playing previous Elder Scrolls games, the kind of context behind it. It's like, oh, this is most likely the Dark Brotherhood because this kid is trying to summon the Dark Brotherhood. It mentions that. But if you're coming from outside of the Elder Scrolls series, like a lot of people that play Skyrim did, because it just came out when they were getting into video games, or it looked cool because there's dragons and dragons are cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's set in the medieval times. Then you're not really sure, but the quest does enough to spark your interest in it. It's like, oh, this kid's trying to summon something crazy, and he's up in Winterhold, and he's all alone.
Yeah, and the whole thing, it's cool in the sense because it's still interesting for people being first exposed to it, but I don't ever remember seeing people do the Black Sacrament in Oblivion. And that's what the kid's doing.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That like you're seeing that. You're like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. And stuff. Right? Does that happen in Oblivion? Do you witness someone?
I can't say I remember.
Maybe. I haven't played that quest line in so long. I do like Oblivion's one a bit more because I don't know. You have to kill everyone. You have to kill everyone in the Dark Brotherhood. You cleanse it. Because there's a mole.
You did the same thing in Skyrim.
Well, you can, but
spoiler alert, that game's from 2011.
Yeah. Well, you can, but you don't kill everyone in there by choice. Like if you're picking the Dark Brotherhood side, you don't, like Astrid betrays you or whatever, which is like the same thing, but your friends are still around, the young girl and the Redguard guy.
I think there's only a few that live.
Oh yeah.
There's the main guy.
It's way smaller than I thought. The Jester's dead.
Skyrim's...
The werewolf dies.
Well, you kill Cicero. Like,
Yeah. Cicero. Oh my god. It's always so weird to me hearing like names of NPCs and Skyrim.
Turning into a Skyrim podcast.
Because it just brings back so much. Yeah, it is a Skyrim podcast. But really, like when I think of RPGs, Skyrim is like the first thing that comes to my head.
It kind of defaults to Skyrim for me because that was the first main like huge RPG that I played.
I played other RPGs, but like I don't know, that was like the first in our group was playing Skyrim.
It's just like that's kind of the game that got me into the genre actually. And then, like, from there, I've played a few others. Like,
because that other RPGs, I don't know. There's a huge bonus to playing RPGs at the same time other people are, because you talk about it.
Yeah, and like some people find other things that you haven't.
And then you look for those things, and it's really cool. It's cool to have people who have played their characters play your character, and
it's significantly different.
And it's significantly different for them, but they also like. They go through some quest lines and stuff that you haven't done. They're like, "Oh, you haven't done this," and like, it works really well.
Even if it's small or it's like you get like a gold settlement for killing a guy because it's like a mercenary quest, or you have an entirely like set of Daedric artifacts that this other guy didn't know about because he just didn't find the quests.
You ever play the Fallout games?
I haven't. I probably should.
They're good. I mean, similar things, but different. It plays out a bit differently, especially like New Vegas plays a bit differently, but in like a good way. Because you don't want to just feel like, oh, they just took Skyrim and they put it in a post-apocalyptic setting.
Gave
like,
you guns.
Yeah. But no, it plays differently. It has a different feel to it, which is impressive. And I'd say New Vegas is probably better than 3. 3 was the biggest leap ahead, but New Vegas is just a more refined experience. So coming from not having played it, I'd say New Vegas. Just play New Vegas. Don't bother with 3.
I haven't played it.
If you haven't played either, yeah. I think that's generally what people agree on, but you never know.
I've heard like good things about most, if not all, the Fallout games, but just like I have never really gotten into it. It's not. I don't know. I feel like at some points, just like I was going to buy it, I didn't have money.
Yeah.
Or
it's kind of I don't
something
know.
else comes
I
out.
find it kind of boring compared to an Elder Scrolls game. Like I'm less engaged. Maybe it's just because Elder Scrolls has much more of my trust and comfort. Like I just feel comfortable playing an Elder Scrolls game, whether it's Oblivion or Skyrim. It's just kind of like
It could be like the general feel of Fallout. Like if I understand Fallout correctly, I haven't played it, but like, the world is meant to feel empty. Because the world is empty.
Yeah, it
like there are some areas that are populated, but like
it's kind of like that. It's more like it just kind of feels. It's kind of just you feel kind of anxious exploring. That's how I've always felt.
Yeah. Which works, and the same thing works in the Elder Scrolls games because there's a bunch of wildlife, and you can get randomly attacked by a bear.
Right. Yeah, that's something I always forget about. Like when I first started playing Skyrim. Or Oblivion, when you first start, it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like you just get your ass kicked and you can't beat a bear. You can only beat you can beat that wounded bear in the beginning.
Which gives you and the same with the wounded frostbite spider, like they give you some very like
it helps and it makes you feel confident that you can it's just a spider. And then you get your ass kicked by it.
And then you find an actual one and it destroys
Yeah, I remember doing faction stuff for Stormcloaks and going to that first
the Stormcloak faction thing is so difficult compared to the Imperial one.
You think so? Oh, because you have to do the Ice Wraith.
Yeah, the Ice Wraith
I wasn't even going to mention that. I was just going to Oh, the Ice Wraith was so hard.
Because first of all, you have to go way up north, like way past where you have to go for the Imperial
one. You can run into other Ice Wraiths on your way to the Ice Wraith.
And it's like they'll kill you.
they'll kick your ass.
Is significally harder.
But if you're a Nord, it's easier.
Which is honestly...
Which is a cool... Yeah. That's a cool little touch.
I feel
if you're a Nord, it's way easier to do that.
And honestly, like, we're talking about Skyrim a lot, and just Elder Scrolls in general, but it's all of these things that make it such a good RPG, because there's so many different things that add into it to create the actual world of it. It's
you could talk about it for hours.
Skyrim itself is so huge that there's so much to do.
Yeah.
And the only thing that bothers me about it is how the experience is, like, really bottlenecked by the intro. Because it's so linear compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, and I don't love doing alternate start that much. I think it's fun, but forcing me to go, okay, well, this is like I just want to. I don't know, something about it. It's linear, but it doesn't let you do it a little bit faster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
in
very
New Vegas,
scripted.
you can skip the tutorial and stuff like that. And actually, I just started replaying it, and I noticed I was like, this is good. I can just sort of set off.
I think the main... It's not even like an issue I have with the game, though. It's just the fact that I've started a new character so many times that, like...
Yeah, I've done it so many times.
It's on a script that's in a way that you can't move past it faster, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because people that are coming into the game will have, like, all this stuff happening around them.
Yeah, and it's really awesome first playing it.
Yeah, because
when I first played Skyrim, I was so happy it was linear from the start.
And then it just kind of, like, after you get out of the cave, it just kind of lets you go.
Yeah.
Even though, like, it still kind of gives you, like, a general idea of a critical path, which is how you're supposed to make your way through the game.
Yeah.
It's basically the main quest.
I prefer... You play Oblivion at all? Do you know its opening? You get broken out of prison pretty much.
Yeah, I know Oblivion's
But, like,
opening.
by the guys. I like that opening a lot. Mainly because probably the best written dialogue is in there. And then other than that, it just has a massive nosedive. It's just the king says some... I don't know, he just says some cool stuff. He's like... He's like, I look into your eyes, and I think you are the one. And he just... I don't know. He just, like, has so much faith in you, and you're like, whoa.
I feel like a hero.
Yeah. That sets you on the path of wanting to be, like, the guy.
Even though,
Oblivion. Like, you really want to... I don't know. I felt really compelled to do the main quest in Oblivion.
Yeah, like...
In Skyrim, I was like, fucking, I'm free.
Yeah, the main quest in Skyrim, it's like, it's there, but most people... Honestly, I feel like it's just because, like...
It's never good, though. Like, I'm not saying it's good in
the critical path of Skyrim is a lot less interesting than all of, like, the non-linear crap you can do.
Yeah.
Because it's so...
That's where they take the risks.
Yeah,
even those
if
side
you just
quests.
follow the main quest, it's so short.
Yeah.
Compared to, like, the extensive amounts of, like, gameplay time that you can just do by just running around the world and just, like, practicing your archery by shooting wolves.
But I
practicing
prefer
magic.
that, because then that makes it kind of your story.
Yeah, it makes it non-linear, but the people that, like, really want to play that main quest, and there's...
It's there.
It's there.
Good. It's a good way to level.
And, like...
It gets you to, like, a nice level 20 or 15
I don't know
or something
if,
like that. A nice round level.
I don't know if Skyrim does this intentionally, but I feel like the people were, like, when creating this path, tried to make the rest of the game seem more interesting than the main quest. Because I think I finished the main quest once, but I had to do it, like, very actively. Like, to not get distracted by other things.
I've only done the main quest once.
Because the blades just aren't interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I sided with the blades.
And some people, like... the game kind of makes you hate them, too. Because Parthronax, the dragon you have to
this cool dragon.
Who's, like, ascended, like, the need for violence and is just kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Like...
They make you kill him.
I
never took the blades side.
I think I took it once. And then I played it again and I didn't.
Yeah.
But that main quest is just
stuff.
really short. There's not much to it.
Yeah. I see what you mean.
But, like, from a stance of a role-playing game, it's like, that's who you are. You're the Dragonborn. You have to go and do this thing. And
it's cool.
By doing that thing, you have to follow your...
What kind of, like...
Follow your quest.
Mindset do you have when you play Skyrim now, if you ever do? It's like, It's like, are you focused on the nostalgia, or, like... Do you go in and, like, try and think about how, like, smart certain things are, or, like, whether, that's a flaw? Are you trying to criticize it, or are you just trying to, like... Me, I'm just trying to relive certain things and do things I've never done before. Because at this point, I've invested so much time into it that it's just, like, criticizing it is, like, what does that even mean anymore? Like, I'm not really in a position where criticizing it is even, like, I don't know, it just feels weird. Like, why am I criticizing this game I've spent so much time and thought in? And it's just like, it does what it does.
I think, not
that I don't criticize it, but just, like, the way I play it, I'm not, like, looking for things. Which is a problem, but...
As something that's, like, comes with being someone who's looking to design games, it kind of, like, you kind of have to look for flaws. But I have I guess I could say I have two different mindsets when I play games. One is for when I'm playing it for entertainment, and one is when I'm looking to deconstruct.
Right.
Because keeping those separate, I feel is kind of like necessary to actually enjoy a game.
You ever start playing a game to deconstruct it, and then eventually you like it so much that you switch that other switch?
Yes. Recently I played Doom, and
that was Doom.
That started out.
I thought it was going to be Toho. I thought you were going to tell me Toho.
No, I did not deconstruct Toho. I just started playing that and getting angry.
Playing it.
Getting very angry. Doom
It's not a very complex game.
It's not. It's just hard.
Yeah.
Doom is one of those games, though, where it's just like, oh, I have to... Like, the topic I had to do was deconstruct a first-person shooter with a certain type of level design.
Okay.
And certain aspects to it. So I went in with a deconstruction mindset, just kind of like seeing how the levels were built and where the AI placement was, where the drop placement was to keep the player interested and healthy.
Yeah.
But not to an extent that it doesn't create a challenge. And just general placings from a design standpoint.
Yeah.
I think after I hit the second chapter... No, it's after I hit the Foundry. I don't remember how far into that... I think it's like maybe halfway through.
Yeah.
It kind of got to the point where it's like, okay, I have a general feel for how this is designed.
Right.
Like,
and
there's differences in every level, but like it gets to the point where it's... I'm just enjoying shooting things with a shotgun and watching guts go everywhere.
And it gets consistent a lot of times.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah, I can imagine.
And like the challenge keeps ramping up by throwing more and more enemies your way.
You like
and
Doom?
then they give you bigger guns. Yeah, I really like Doom.
It sucks for me. A lot of first-person games like that give me motion sickness after a while. You know, because when they're single player, they can add in all this motion blur and all this stuff that just makes it more like visually impressive because they don't need you to be focused on like shooting other people and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
It's just like
Battlefield's campaign versus its multiplayer. Like it just looks different because they want you to be able to see the people you're shooting at and stuff like that.
Instead of
you don't just die all the time. Yeah. And also that I guess servers can handle it better or something. I don't fucking know. But
it's the same thing between Doom and its multiplayer. Like Doom single player was like
I mean that
critically loved.
They just
like
screwed up that multiplayer.
Well, the multiplayer was developed like differently.
Yeah.
Like it was developed in engine, of course, because kind of need the engine to actually do things.
Yeah.
But it was developed completely independently of the actual
I
single player.
think it was a different dev or something.
I don't think it was a different dev. I think it was just a different team.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, different
I think it was still done by
So it was
id.
like, well, yeah, id's always just gonna say it's id.
There's a lot of credits in that game.
Maybe it was the Rage team.
The Rage team.
Did you ever play that game?
Yeah, the guy who taught me game design worked on it.
Oh, really? Is it any good?
He's actually pretty proud of it. It's not necessarily good.
It looks so different.
It's very different, yeah.
It looks so fucked up.
It's
like
honestly, when I first saw gameplay of it, it didn't really catch me, and I haven't played it yet, but I honestly kind of want to, just because the guy, like, he talks about it a lot, and he's, like, really proud of it, and it's, like, I guess as a designer, it's like, I haven't made anything good yet. I know that. Like, the games I make are, like, really small and, like, really
you can
bad.
still appreciate, but, like, even if it's not something you love, you can still look at it and learn from it.
Yeah, it's like, but it feels like it's like my child. Like, I have to, like, love it and care for it, even though it sucks and it's not going to amount to anything.
All right.
But, like, it's that feeling of, like, when other people have their games, then you're like, oh, yeah, I'm really proud of this. Like, the guy worked on the Ghostbusters game, and he's, like, really proud of, like, the level design aspects of it.
The original one wasn't bad.
I think it was the one on the 360.
On the 360 wasn't bad.
Like, he's really proud. He's really proud of that Rage.
I don't know, Fahey had that.
Yeah, he's really proud of those two games, and it's like the way he talks about them just makes me like, wow, I want to experience this game now. Like, I want to jump into the immersion within this game.
I wonder if that's something that could maybe be why like so many like reviews are inflated on mainstream game websites and stuff like that. Why like critics seem so easy. You know what I mean?
There are some games definitely.
They keep in contact and they get the reasoning behind certain things maybe explained. I don't know. I don't know what the relationship between journalists and
that'd be something interesting to look into.
Yeah, but it's like, what can we do? Like, I don't know.
It's like from my point of view, like the stuff with Call of Duty, to me, like design wise, everything kind of seems like yes, they changed mechanics stuff. I'm not gonna like get into.
They made a formula and just
they made a formula and stuck with it, which there's nothing wrong with that. The formula works, but it just when you lose the general creativity behind changing that formula and like manipulating it to become like a different experience every time.
I always wonder if Call of Duty would do better as a kind of like, well, okay, for one, they shouldn't make a game every single year, but also I figured it's so much more like people just want Modern Warfare 2. You know what I mean? Like they just want that. They don't want anything but that. And yeah, at least I think. I know that's what I want. I played that campaign, and it's great. I played it again recently. It's so smooth.
I'm not a fan of Call of Duty per se. Like I respect.
You played a little bit.
Yeah, like,
but I don't think you really liked it.
I liked Modern Warfare 2. I liked World at War.
So that's crazy to me. Is that you fucking of all people played Modern Warfare 2? Like I wouldn't put the Call of Duty attachment on you.
Like I have a friend who like really likes Call of Duty, and I don't have anything against him for it, but like he likes it just because it's the same thing. And it's the same formula, only it's like updated every single time.
You talking about?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
But that formula keeps updating to an extent to keep everything fresh and new.
Yeah, it's so interesting how Battlefield does it differently.
It's like how most first-person shooters do it, like because every main first-person shooter series has its own formula. Like Halo has its own formula, and that really hasn't changed all that much.
Well, the new Halos are fucked up.
Yeah,
I disagree. I think the new Halos are so much different.
I think they deviated from the general formula enough to make it feel different.
Yeah.
But like the same concept and like even the weapons kind of stay the same. Like where a good amount of them don't have like you can't look at their sights. Like
I think
accuracy is kind of based on.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's just they have a different.
It's the same kind of like they're trying to still be Halo. You know what I mean? They're but they fail. I think the 343 guys are so much worse than the Bungie people.
Well, it's not their like. I experienced this recently where it's if a game is not your specific creation and you didn't have the actual original dream behind that game, it's a lot harder to develop for it.
There's only a few
because
it's
not your idea.
There's
it's not coming from the same well of information.
You have to have a certain kind of workflow. I think you have to have a really good understanding of what made the previous game so good. I don't know. Obsidian is very good at doing that. They made the second Knights of the Old Republic after BioWare did it, and that game's great. They also made New Vegas, and New Vegas is great. And like Bethesda didn't make New Vegas. That was Obsidian. It's just a fucking really random dev that just picks up things and just makes like
sequels.
And it works.
It's really difficult to do though.
Yeah.
Following someone else's story is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Mostly just because like.
Did you have to do that? Was there ever an activity?
Yeah,
like
there's
where
you get stuck in a group setting. Someone comes up with an idea, and you have to follow that idea. You have to make a story out of it, and then you have to make a game out of it. And design-wise, like mechanically-wise, the game isn't hard to make, but following the general idea behind the story and incorporating that into the actual idea of the game is a lot more difficult than it seems, at least for me, because I kind of live within my own worlds, and I create based on the worlds that I envision, and when I can't envision the world that someone else makes, I can't make it interesting.
They did that. I mean, that
which
goes
isn't
beyond
a good
games.
thing. It's not a good thing to do.
They did that in like English classes and stuff like that. I was awful at that. That was one of the. I don't think it's natural to like be able to do that. It's very difficult.
It's not as a designer. It's not good though, because when you're on a team, and you are not the head designer, like this is not your game. You have to be able to work with it. So it's kind of something that like it's really good when you're working indie because that is your idea. And you are working with that along with other designers and other people. And
in Activision,
I honestly don't understand how people can work in AAA game studios like that. It's nuts. Like I understand how. Have to, it's just crazy to me.
Like I always thought everyone just must be an engineer
because there are some designers that can't draw for crap, and I'm one of them. They have to have a basic understanding of coding so they can give it to either they can make their own systems or they can give it to a game programmer and they can make it better because they're bad at coding.
Right.
But the main thing they have to do is to design. And that's something that, like, a lot of people kind of criticize designers for. It's like, oh, you're just making ideas.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not hard. We can do that. But there's a lot more to that. And it's really hard to kind of show that there's a lot more to that. Like, at every step of the process, you have to, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing now. This is a broken these are the past 5 broken versions of the game that I'm trying to make.
And every little thing, it's like, I don't know. It's so easy for like, a gamer is like, oh, I noticed all these things about the design behind this one weapon or something like that, and why it's smart and stuff. And it's so easy for a gamer to like do that and be like, oh, I'm really smart and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, a game designer has to do that as their fucking job, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that has to. It's wrong of them not to.
There's a difference between noticing designs and making the designs. And making it work within the world, and making it work with everything else within the setting, and making just everything mold together and be one happy little thing, and the whole game crashes.
Yeah.
And then it's no
Maybe
fun.
not literally, but sometimes.
Yeah. It'll just be like out of place and just not feel right.
See, that's something I never really like. I have such a hard time thinking about like how to actually design. Like I can play a game and look at it and feel a certain way about it and notice things about it, but I could never come up with that.
It's, yeah.
You know?
You have to have a crazy imagination.
And you could change things and stuff like that. That's why I think, I guess people that like Riot or something like that, that's a different kind of design probably.
That's like...
Yeah, especially the balance patches.
The things that like, when you're constantly adding on to like one game, you have to kind of...
You want people with a good knowledge of that game.
It's like people
so
that
you don't
design
often that
for,
isn't
like,
even the creators, you know.
Yeah, it's people that like for anything competitive. Like even if you're designing for Pokemon, if you're designing for freaking Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh, you have to have like a basic understanding of like, okay, what is the basics centered around this game, what exists within this game already, and what would not be too ridiculous to add into this game, but also be more interesting.
Right. That's why I like pros doing like I like the idea of professional players contributing to how a game
because
balances.
they
have a really good understanding of how that game works.
Yeah, like
but it's different
they might even
for like
understand
games
it more
in a
than the
series.
designers.
Yeah,
like it's kind of
exactly.
crazy.
That's like the only case, right? Because you're adding to the game. You're not making a new game, right? Because everyone always applauds people like Kojima and stuff like that. Like he's really smart for not listening to what people told him to do and doing different things for his sequels.
As a designer,
but it's like, a sequel, not adding on to it. You know, with an esport game, you're just updating it.
It's kind of your job as a designer to take those criticisms and like ideas and either take them or just say as a designer, no, this will not work in the thing I'm trying to create.
Have you ever gotten a criticism that you've thrown in the trash?
Yes.
Yeah. Was it really bad?
Wasn't necessarily bad. It just didn't fit.
It was
theme.
Unfeasible.
Yeah.
I feel like that's most likely the kind of criticism that you're going to get.
And
if someone doesn't understand like the full extent of your vision, I guess, if you want to call it that, and they suggest an idea and you're just like, that won't work. Even
if you go with that, like you can't be stubborn with it though, because if you're stubborn with your idea, no one will want to work with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if they're like, hey, if you do this, it'll make it a lot easier for the programmers because we can change this mechanic very slightly to make it a lot easier. But if you're a designer, it's like, no, it has to be perfect, it has to be my way. Then it's like no one's going to want to work with you because it's just significantly harder.
Have you ever personally done or like encountered a mechanic where like it's difficult for programmers to handle that?
Yeah,
that's really interesting to me. As
like
a CS person.
I've made like 4 not good games, and there's one specifically that was like meant to be based on a completely different like fighting combat style,
and it was programmers were like, this is fucking hard.
It was supposed to be like a side-scrolling beat 'em up, and the programmers was like, this will not work. This is just ridiculous. Wow, you can't have it like that.
That's really interesting. Okay. Like, duh, obviously, but at the same time, it's interesting to think that there could be really interesting mechanics, and programmers are just like, that's not going to work.
Yeah, there are limitations based on just like what people can do. Like, I'm sure, like, had this been 3 years into the future, where we're all like,
or if you have more time with it, like that's the other thing. Programmers are on a timetable, like, I bet the programmers don't think it's impossible.
It just either they don't have the experience, they don't have the knowledge, or they don't have the time.
Yeah.
It's from what I've noticed, that's kind of the main like things if you're just a programmer in general, where you have one of those 3 things, and if those 3 things don't match up, you kind of got to cut something.
Yeah. Damn, that's interesting. We didn't really cover any of the main.
No, we didn't.
We talked about mindset.
We touched on mindset. We talked a lot about Skyrim.
See, yeah, those. The other main ideas that I guess we had that would kind of be recurring would be like recent games you started playing and games you stopped playing.
Like, I covered that.
But like nothing's really came up. I mean, I guess I talked about Fallout a little bit.
Yeah.
They just sort of those things naturally come up because they're fresh on your mind and stuff.
There are a few games that I played recently that have like really kind of opened my mind, both in just like mechanic wise or like in a storytelling like kind of sense, because a lot of games tell really, really good stories and they don't have to rely on their mechanics to do that, even though some do. And then when that works in tandem, it's an incredible experience.
It's better than anything else.
Oh my god, this is incredible.
Yeah.
It's like people praise Undertale for doing that when there's kind of like...
Yeah, I kind of disagree. But
Undertale was good.
I feel like Undertale isn't subtle about it. Like they're really clear that like, hey, look, our mechanics are playing into the story.
Yeah.
Like, games I end up liking that do that. I mean, it's not even a specific bash of Undertale. It's just like I prefer games that are a bit more subtle about it, I guess. It's because I like to be made to think a little bit harder so that it's not like clear to me from the beginning that, oh, this game is smart. Like I like to realize that a game is smart because then I feel smart for going through the process. You know?
Like, there's a game like Undertale that I've been raving about constantly recently called One Shot, and I don't shut up about it because this game is so mechanically incredible to me. And like it does act like a smart because like it reads your computer and like, hey, this is your name. It's like and the character interacts with you, but like there goes into like this whole crazy different thing about like.
So then that's awesome.
Yeah,
and I feel like Undertale might do that, but I just
the actual player, the character within the world, and that. Honestly, I feel like I'm biased towards that because I really like that idea of like the player as a character because that's immersion at its finest.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
There's like I could talk about One Shot for literally hours, but I'm not going to because it gets so monotonous.
We could do a One Shot thing sometime.
I mean, I'm the only one that's played it so far, so
yeah, I'll think about buying it if it's really that good.
Honestly, I really enjoy it.
All right,
it's just something fun, and it's really clever. But it doesn't tell you that it's clever. Apart from that first thing where it's like, oh, this is your name because we read your computer. But like, there's a lot of other things that it's like, it gives you like little hints, and then when you can't figure out the hints, it calls you stupid.
Okay, so it's just like little things like that. They
like,
add up.
The puzzles are like, the puzzles break the fourth wall.
Okay,
but like, it's not in a dumb way where it's like,
it's not Deadpool.
Yeah, it's not Deadpool.
It's not Deadpool tier.
Yeah. Deadpool. Oh god, I forgot.
Not that I dislike Deadpool.
I forgot the game existed, honestly.
Oh yeah, I mean the game is really cheap with it.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. That's the other thing. You just kind of get shocked, like, wow, this is in the game, and then you're playing it, and you're just like, well, it's not fun.
I feel like Deadpool is one of those examples where they turned a joke into a game, and then the game felt like a joke.
Yeah, pretty much. Deadpool media to me is constantly filled. Like the creators are just constantly like, no, look how cool Deadpool is. Like, look how cool breaking the fourth wall is. Like, you didn't realize that. Like, they're always assuming that the people watching or playing or whatever didn't realize that, oh, Deadpool breaks the fourth wall. Because, you know, people don't tend to know about what a comic book is, like, actually like.
Yeah, I don't remember the actual. From what I've seen, he doesn't actually, like. They don't.
But it gets old.
Tell you
that they're wearing out their welcome of being like, hey, no, this is what Deadpool is like in the comics, guys. Because everyone knows now, so the shock factor is over. That's like if Wolverine suddenly became obsessed with like Wolverine in the comics is like a really short, fat guy. Like he's not very fit. He's not leaping across the place.
The Wolverine in Marvel.
But Wolverine in whatever the hell.
In movies, it's Hugh Jackman.
It's fucking Hugh Jackman, this jacked Australian guy. Yeah. Which is fine, in my opinion. You know, not to get into movies. It's a different artist rendition
of Wolverine, which is like, it's fine.
Yeah, but like I feel like if Wolverine was to constantly slave over the fact, it's like, no, this is what he's like in comics, and you have the wrong idea of that.
Yeah.
At first, it would be cool, because you'd be like, oh, I never knew that. And then maybe you check out the comics or something, and then after a while, you'd be like, okay, but what else? Yeah. And that's how I feel. Like, that's what Deadpool's done. At least with that game. The movie was alright.
Honestly, that stuff happens a lot. Just like something I did really poorly was the Assassin's Creed movie, where it's
I didn't even watch. Did you watch it?
I didn't watch it, but I know a lot of what happens in it. Where it's basically, if you don't know anything about the Assassin's Creed universe, you will be so lost, and it's just not good.
Oh, really?
That's what I've heard about it.
What storyline does it cover? Does it cover
I don't think it
Altair
covers
or
any
Ezio?
of them. It covers a completely separate thing.
So then that's why it's confusing.
But
they should have just made an Ezio movie.
Like the concepts covered are like the same kind of thing that like happens with Desmond, where he has to go back and it's so like this science thing. It's like we have to read your memories from your ancestor to find
the worst part of Assassin's Creed is what got turned into a movie.
Yeah.
You like Assassin's Creed 2?
I love Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood, and then we played Revelations multiplayer, and that's honestly all the memories I have of Revelations are from the multiplayer and getting bullshit
at the time.
By the
those games weren't so bad. That I try and think about that. Like at the time, Assassin's Creed 2 was a big deal. Like there weren't games like that. Now every game is like that. But Assassin's Creed 2, like it did it first, and it did pretty well. Like I like that game's story a lot. And Brotherhood isn't awful.
I actually prefer Brotherhood over 2. I think.
Well, yeah, if I'm gonna play one, I'll play Brotherhood. It looks prettier. You can do cooler things in the gameplay. Like it just feels like that.
I feel like Assassin's Creed is one of those games that it's like
multiplayer.
It's taken the same concept too far. It's kind of like the same thing with Call of Duty, where it's like, I'm not saying that the new games are bad, but it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of getting stale. Like Black Flag was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it wasn't. I love Black Flag.
It still isn't like, oh,
it could have just been something different.
Yeah, well, I think that's about time. So this was fun. Yeah, we can do this.